Welcome back, and today I'm going to be making a video on correcting your status. Now, I would like to point out that this correcting your status has been going on for several years at least that I know of. I first heard about it a few years ago. This discussion of becoming an American national, and I wasn't really paying a whole lot of attention, and so I knew about it, but I didn't really investigate it. And so until recently, yes, I have been more involved in some of the legal things coming up with the global currency reset and the revaluation of currencies around the world, and this whole movement to gold back currency and get rid of the fake paper money that's printed out of thin air. And so I've done a little bit of legal background, and I've stumbled upon this correcting your status. And what I found is there's been terrible fraud perpetrated upon the American people. And I guess that's to be expected because, as I mentioned in the last video, there are two kingdoms. One, the kingdom of God, ruled over by Christ, and Christ is king on his throne in heaven and also everywhere around us. But also we have the kingdom of man, ruled over by Satan. And we know from the Bible verse John 10:10, the thief, Satan, comes to kill, steal, and destroy. And he's a master deceiver. And so what he'll do is he'll put things that look like they're good and they're real and they're beneficial to us, but we're really being sold out. And we see this throughout really my lifetime and my parents' background, really going back to like the Great Depression. And so this has been a slow process, and that's why it's been effective. And it's been very slow, and you could see, just from, my years growing up. I grew up in the 1960s, 1970s, and it was very fashionable to be a patriot, to be, to say the Pledge of Allegiance every morning in school, and to give the military honor and all these type things. But I think since like the time of Reagan, things have been on a slow slide where the state indoctrination program, the public schools, have been really dumbing down the children. They don't teach them, basic skills. They don't teach them any history. They don't teach them about the Constitution. They don't teach them about their rights, unalienable rights, rights given by God, and they can't be given away. But you can surrender those. You can volunteer to surrender your God-given rights, and we all have done it. I'm guilty of it, and people every day do it. And so, but there is a way to get back on track. And I would like to say this is it does take a little bit of backbone, and it does take some internal strength, and because the bad guys are not just going to roll over and say, "Oh yeah, you got us. Yeah, you caught us. Yeah, we'll just behave and give you everything." No, they're going to push back, and they're going to intimidate and coerce, and they're going to make it difficult to stand on your God-given rights. And so the defense for that is to be prepared. You need to have some knowledge that you can rebut that pressure. And especially like in a traffic stop scenario, you can't just be sitting there pulling out a manual and trying to fumble through pages, how to conduct yourself, as as an American national outside the jurisdiction of the corporate policy, all this corporate the regulations and ordinances and policies and codes, and that's all corporate jurisdiction. That's all. That's all. Uh, that's all things that people have volunteered to follow by contracting with the state, primarily through Social Security number, primarily through a driver's license. So when you do all these things, when you use that Social Security number, when you rush out and get all these licenses, and you're actually submitting to a commercial law. You're actually signing a contract that you're going to obey those rules and regulations. You have a performance duty now. And so what I'm going to do is just kind of walk you through some of the highlights of corrected status. And I encourage you to do some research. I am going to post some links. There's a great video on YouTube with a comprehensive guide. It's got the big picture of the American flag on the as the header, and that actually gives you a lot of history, how we got into this mess, and how you can kind of unravel and get out of the mess. And it's not really that hard. It's a matter of just sending out some affidavits to to like the State Department and to your state attorney general and to local law enforcement. And so he provides some templates on how to present that affidavit. My affidavit was actually 3 pages, and you take that and get notarized, and you make several copies of it, and you're going to send one off to the State Department, and then you're going to send some additional copies to like your local law enforcement folks to kind of put them on notice that you are correcting your status. And I'll get into that in a moment. And I've also followed up with a fee schedule, and I'll talk about that. And then once you send out these notices, these affidavits, send them out certified return receipt, and I haven't had the greatest luck with the United States Post Office, so you might want to do UPS or FedEx and get the return receipt, get a signature, and so you have a record that they did receive these documents. And so I'll post so there's a couple of other things I'm going to post. There's a lengthy, probably 100-page booklet, The Greatest Story Never Told, and it talks about basically the fraud that's been perpetrated on the original the American colonists, because they were the original sovereigns, so to speak, and how since the Civil War that sovereignty, that initial birthright is being chipped away by the bad guys, the banksters, they're called, the banksters, trying to gain, through greed, trying to gain more and more control of land and people and money and just hoard everything. And we have a situation right now where 1% of the people own 80% of the wealth. 1% own 80% of the wealth. And so that, of course, the flip side is that 99% of the people are fighting over the 20%. Okay, so we have some imbalance, and I do believe that's being corrected. They're called white hats, and they're dismantling this fraudulent banking system as I speak every day. And you can see through the news slowly that the countries around the world are going to a gold-backed currency, and they're getting rid of the fake banksters, the money supply, the central banks, the Federal Reserve. Okay, that's been this, when you control the money, you control everybody. And so like I said, back after the Civil War, the Congress created 2 classes of citizens. You had the original Americans, I would call American nationals, And after the Civil War, they created another class, U.S. citizen, a United States citizen, and that was for the slaves, that they would have some kind of rights after the Civil War. And I can and there's some definitions that are going to be in the video that I'm going to post about the comprehensive guide. And I'll talk about some of these legal cases, and one of them is a United States citizen is either a former slave claiming civil rights, and civil rights are privileges, or an American national who gave up their constitutional God-given rights to claim the civil rights. And that's what most of us have done. We've given up that original sovereignty from God, and we've kind of taken the privileges, because what they've done is they put some benefits with the privileges to kind of hide it, to make it, to put a little bit of a sugar coating on there. So you took the bait. It's like bait, like a fish. When you go fishing, you put the bait on there, and then and we've taken it. We've taken the bait. There's stories about during the Great Depression, and that's really when this started with the civil rights, the Social Security. Social Security came in, I think, in 1935, but the United States of America, the government was bankrupt in 1933, had no money. The banksters presented all these receipts for gold, and the country was bankrupt. And so people had no money. And so they were hungry. And so they had these, of course, if you remember the history, the government put all these programs, the WPA, you can get a job for $2 a day. And there was families that were hungry. They took it. But in order to get that $2 a day, you had to go to the other desk and at the job site and sign up for a Social Security number. You had to become a member of the trust, the Social Security Trust. And that was basically signing away your life, your purse, yourself as property. Okay? And I'm going to give you a few definitions from the video. And once you have the video, they'll all be in there. You can pause the video and look at them. You can look up the citations. I've actually written them down, and so I have them. And one, for example, the only absolute and unqualified right of a United States citizen is to residence within the territorial boundaries of the United States. And that's the Supreme Court versus Valentine. Okay, that's the only absolute right that a United States citizen has, is that you get to reside on the territorial boundaries. Now, most people wouldn't think that. They would think they have all these rights. Well, they really have a lot of privileges, and those privileges can be taken away. Another one, Wheeling Steel Corporation versus Fox. Therefore, the U.S. citizens residing in one of the states of the Union are classified as property and franchises of the federal government. You are property of the federal government. Look at that. You don't even own yourself anymore. You're actually owned by the federal government, and we know that property can't own property. And so if you're property, you really don't own, like when you think you own a house that you've been paying on, you really don't own it. The banksters own the house. You're just a tenant on the property that you think you own. And that's why you're paying property taxes. And that's why even after the mortgage is paid off, you're still paying taxes. Because that's like the sharecroppers' rent. That's what they did after the Civil War. The master owned the land, and you He would let you work the land, but you had to pay him a cut. And so that's really what the system is. You don't own anything. We can't own anything. And so I can go into a little bit of some of the driving thing, which is, like I've mentioned in the first two videos, that, like for instance, a driver's license. Okay, there's case law saying that you don't need a state-issued driver's license if you're not in commerce. Yes, if you're driving a tractor trailer, or if you're an Uber driver, then yes, you are going to need a license. But otherwise, you don't. Okay, and the case, and there's several of them, but one in particular that we have California versus White. The right of the citizen to drive on a public street with freedom from police interference is a fundamental constitutional right. And you also have Thompson versus Smith. The right of a citizen to travel upon the public highways and to transport his property thereon, and it gives you, horse-driven carriage, wagon, or automobile, is not a mere privilege which may be permitted or prohibited at will, but a common right which he has under his right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And so as long as you're not engaged in commerce, you can travel the streets. You can. It's going to take, like I said, it's going to take a little bit of standing up for your rights, because you're going to get pushback, because the policymen are trained in commercial law. They're not trained in common law. They're not trained. They're not trained in this type of your God-given rights. So they're going to attempt to trample you. They're going to attempt to push you back into the system. The masters don't want the slaves getting away, so they're going to push back. So if you're just a regular old Joe, and you have instead of saying a vehicle, because that's really a commercial term, vehicle, we call it a private conveyance. You have a right to travel. You don't say drive, because that's another commercial term, and that's what's going to happen. They're going to say, "I seen you driving." Well, no, officer, I wasn't driving. I was traveling in my personal conveyance. And so, but they're going to try to trick you and intimidate you into agreeing, and they're going to have their body cam on, that you are driving a vehicle, and trying to get you to agree that you're in the commercial. You're in their jurisdiction as a commercial driver. And so that's the driving without a state license. You also have the registration part. Let me put my little glasses on here, and it talks about the UCC, Uniform Commercial Code 9 versus 109. And the definition, they call it a consumer good, is if the good is used or bought for use primarily for personal, family, or household purposes. And there's a case, Malacote versus Volunteer Finance and Loan Corporation, an automobile purchase for the purpose of transporting buyer to and from his place of employment was a consumer good. In the case of Boston, a Bank of Boston versus Jones, a vehicle not used for commercial activity is a consumer good. It is not a type of vehicle required to be registered. Okay? So, this is settled case law. This is settled case law. And they're not going to come out and tell you that this is settled case law, because they want revenue. They want to pull you into this system. So what I'm saying is that whether you pursue this to do the corrective status, it's going to be a matter of personal, personal fortitude. It's going to depend on how strongly you feel about your God-given rights, how aggressive you want to be, if you want to be a belligerent claimant against those that are trying to take away your God-given rights. And it's going to take a little bit of, chutzpah. It's going to take a little bit of study. Like I said, you can't be sitting here with the books when you have the policeman, the policy man, at your window of your personal conveyance, intimidating you. See, the first thing he's going to say is, I want to see your driver's license, registration, and proof of insurance. Well, those are for people, the U.S. citizens. Those are for people. Those are documents that somebody that has agreed to be under the boot of the system. The American national, those things don't apply. None of those codes apply to the American national. Actually, the policy man, the first thing he should do is come to your window and decide and determine if he has jurisdiction. And the jurisdiction is decided, well, are you a United States citizen or are you an American national? Question number 2 is, are you in commerce or for hire, such as an Uber driver, or are you traveling in private? Okay, so if you're traveling in private as an American national, then that policy man has no jurisdiction. Unless you were committing a crime, it's unlawful for him to stop you, even. That's a Fourth Amendment violation. And so, a crime, we know from other case law, a crime, the corpus delicti, a crime has 2 elements. It needs a victim. And it needs either personal injury or property damage or fraud. And most likely, if you're just going down the road and you haven't hit anybody, and there's no victim, and so there's really no crime. A traffic infraction is not a crime. And there's other case law about that too. California versus Farley: speeding, driving without a license, wrong plates or no plates, no registration, no tags, etc., have been held to be non-arrestable offenses. Those are administrative offenses. Those are paperwork offenses. Those are omissions, not commissions. Okay, not committing a crime. It's an omission. You don't have something. It's a negative. And so there's other case law about this too, with the it's a Trezevant, Trezevant versus City of Tampa. A motorist was illegally held for 23 minutes on a traffic charge and was awarded $25,000 in damages. This sets the foundation for $1,086 per minute, or $1.8 million per day. When an individual is detained without a signed lawful Fourth Amendment warrant and without having committed a crime, traffic infractions are not crimes, the detention is a false arrest and unlawful imprisonment. Okay? So what the policy man is going to try to do is he'll pull you over, he'll put his emergency lights on, which again, that's really wrong. There's no emergency. And he's going to try to get you to agree that there's some crime committed, but there is no crime. There's no crime. There's no injury. There's no victim. And so, like I said, this takes a little bit of immersing yourself in the language and how to conduct yourself during one of these stops. And you're going to have highly recommended that you record everything. You have a body cam, a dash cam, your cell phone. You're going to have to document. And so the policy man is going to be trying to build a case against you, and you're going to be in your driver's seat, and you're going to be trying to build a case against him. Because, like I said, I've sent out a fee schedule to all the same people that I've sent my evidence of citizenship to, the State Department in Washington, the Attorney General in my state, and all the local police. It's a fee schedule that basically puts them on notice if they violate my God-given rights, that there's going to be fees associated with that. It's a self-executing contract, and there's already notice given. So if there's any kind of foul up on the side of the street, on the road, they already have noticed that that I've already warned them that there's going to be some legal. We're going to go to federal court, and I'm going to pursue damages. I'm going to pursue remedy, and it's not cheap. A violation of Title 18, Section 241 and 242. That's deprivation of rights under color of law and conspiracy against rights. Those start at $100,000 per occurrence. Arrest or detention is $100,000. Seizure of property is 15. I think it's five times whatever was taken, the value of the property, plus $15,000 a day. So one traffic stop could easily run into a $500,000 lawsuit in federal court, not in your local municipal court. It's going to be a civil case in federal court. And so I hope it doesn't get to that, but I don't know how this is going to play out. I have filled out the affidavits. I've mailed those out. I've sent out the fee schedules, and I'm waiting now for my updated passport. Because what's going to happen now, I've sent for a new passport with my affidavit of citizenship declaration tucked into my passport renewal application. And it's going to take a couple of months. There's no rush to get the passport. And what basically that's going to do, it's going to give me basically a diplomatic immunity. It's going to come up because I'm not going to use the driver's license anymore. Once I get that passport card, I'm going to go back to the motor vehicle. I'm going to give them back their. I'm going to break the contract that I have using the driver's license. I'm going to turn that back in. I'm going to turn in the state tag, turn that in, and I'm not contracting with the state that I'm in. I'm not contracting with them anymore. And that also goes with a concealed permit. All these, I'm breaking all these contracts because you don't need them. You don't need them. You agree to them, but you can stand on your God-given rights. And like I said, they're gonna give you some pushback, but and like I said, it's how firm and how tough you're going to be on standing for those rights, because they are going to push back. You can go on YouTube, and there's all kind of videos about about encounters, police encounter, law enforcement encounters with folks that are trying to stand on their God-given rights, and sometimes it doesn't go very well, and sometimes the people are kind of halfway in. They know a little bit about it, but they haven't done all their homework. They haven't dotted all the I's, crossed the T's. They don't have a fee schedule that they've sent out. So if they are violated, well, you really can't go. It'd be a little harder to go against the law enforcement folks saying they violated rights because they weren't put on notice. So it's a little better for you. Put a little teeth into that affidavit that you've changed your status, that they know there's penalties for violating. And also, once you have that corrected status passport card, it's going to show like a diplomatic immunity when they run that number. It's going to say, do not detain, do not arrest. You're covered under the, you're covered under uh, the Foreign Sovereign Immunities Act, Title 28, Section 1602, and that's uh, basically you're like a foreign diplomat, and they're not to be messing with you. And the same thing with Title 18, Section 112. Whoever willfully intimidates, coerces, threatens, or harasses, or attempts to intimidate, coerce, threaten, or harass a foreign official or obstructs a foreign official within the United States and within 150 feet of owned, used, or occupied by a foreign official with the intent to violate any other provision shall be fined and or imprisoned. So there's a warning. I have a warning sign. This is on my front door. It's going to be on my. It's going to be on one of my windows on the vehicle. And so that's pretty much the introduction. And like I said, I'm going to put some follow-up reading that you can do, and I encourage you, if you're a patriot and you're tired of getting pushed around. And I did forget to mention that also the federal income tax is also it's a terrible story. The IRS is actually a foreign corporation based out of Puerto Rico. All the monies that the IRS collects, it goes to the banksters. None of it goes back into the Treasury, and it's voluntary. And when you take a status as an employee, and you go to the corporation or wherever, and you fill out a W-4 and you sign it, you're saying that you're an employee and that you're signing up to the system. You're agreeing to pay that money as income, but you have a right to be compensated for your labor, and not considered income. And so the American national status takes you out of the IRS code. It takes you out of that. You'll just have to submit an additional same affidavit that you sent to the State Department. You'll send to the IRS, and you're going to put them on notice that you're no longer a United States citizen. You are now you're a non-resident alien. You're alien to the federal government, and you're non-resident because, like I said, tricky when they say, "Are you a resident?" Normally you say, "Yeah, I'm a resident." You're thinking geography, but no. What that means is that a resident in the legal term means that you're seeking protection from your state government. That's how they've they've taken common usage of words and they've kind of twisted them in the legal sense that they don't really mean what the common usage is. And so you normally, yeah, I'm a resident. Yeah, I'm a United States citizen. But if you do that, if you look at the definition in like the Black's legal dictionary, or the earlier one, I forget the name of it. Back in the 1800s, I think it starts with a B. I forget. Bovier's. I forget what it is, but yeah, you can. It'll give you the definitions. So yeah, you're a non-resident alien, and so according to the IRS, so you're not going to be paying your federal income tax. And I think once we get all the corruption out of the federal government, I think that's all going to go away anyway on its own. It's not going to happen overnight. It's going to take 5 years probably to get all these judges retrained. I think what I've been reading on the alternative media is that the whole world is going to a 1776 style constitution, and so eventually the whole world is going to have all these freedoms, and it's going to be it's not going to be this commercial law, this admiralty law. It's going to be the law of the land, the soil, and so it's going to be common law, which means that there's no crime, there's no you're not going to have an issue with anybody unless there's a victim. You're causing somebody property damage, you've injured them personally, or you committed some kind of fraud. And as long as you haven't done those things, there's no crime and there's no claim. There's no trespass against it. The way it is right now, you can't even walk down the street without violating some kind of code that they've put you under that they want money for. Everything you can imagine, jaywalking, everything. They want money, money, money. It's a way to keep. It's a power grab, and it's a way to keep you afraid and in poverty. And so, anyway, that's pretty much it in my video for today. I hope I've given you a little bit of insight. And again, I'm going to post some links that you can kind of follow up and do a little bit of reading. And the one video from YouTube, the comprehensive guide, you can just follow those templates and fill out and send your own affidavits out and do it. And I did it. It's not that hard. The challenge is going to be when you actually go live, when you're actually out on the street with a vehicle. And again, that's the commercial side vehicle. It's a private conveyance. When you're in your private conveyance traveling with your private tags, and I have those, you can see over my shoulder. Those are different examples of private tags, and that's going to be kicking the hornet's nest. Okay, that's gonna people are going to notice that you don't have a whatever state issued tag, and so that's going to be kind of a red flag for especially the uninformed policy men, and they're going to think something's wrong, and they're going to be trying to check you out. So I think that it might only be a first 2 or 3 different times, and then I think that would stop, especially if they know there's going to be financial repercussions if they're harassing you. And so, like I said, I filled out the updated passport card back in about a month ago, so 5 weeks. And so there's really been no change in my day-to-day living. I did fill out the paperwork, and nobody really knows. I just filled it out, and I'm laying all the groundwork for surrendering my driver's license. I've written a letter, have it all ready. I've already contemplated, about turning the tag in. I'm just waiting. I figure it's going to be probably August before I get the updated passport, and then I'm turning in all these, canceling all these contracts, and I'm going to go live. So we'll see how that goes. But I do think in the meantime, I'm going to be doing some ministry videos. Like I said, there's going to be a big financial boom, and I'm expecting a large inflow of some prosperity, and we're going to be getting a large piece of property, and there's going to be some videos concerning the property and the humanitarian work that we're going to be doing. So what I'll probably do is put a playlist. I'll put the kind of the the changes, corrected status videos in one file in the playlist, and then I'll keep the ministry videos in another playlist, so they're not kind of mixed up. Because then I know some people may not be interested in the ministry stuff, and vice versa. So anyway, I thank you for listening, and leave some comments, subscribe, and if you have any questions, I can answer some questions and maybe point to some more resources. There are some Telegram groups, the Freedom Fighter, Fearless Floyd show. There's several of them. The Roger Stiles. I mean, there's several of them that are resources that have been at this for years. And that can be a good resource for learning more. And that's going to be the main thing, education. You're going to have to be fluid in this kind of language, and it's going to be difficult if you just try to go in cold. You just can't hand somebody the book and say, here you go, go do it, because they're not going to be ready when they have that encounter on the street. They're going to be fumbling, and they're going to be swarming you like a hornet's nest. You're gonna if you come in confident and you sound like you know what you're doing, they're going to back off a little bit. Okay, but if you're in there kind of scared and you're fumbling around, you're trying to claim you're an American national, but you're still using your driver's license and you still have the state issued tag on there, that's not going to work. You're either all in or you're not in. You can't be halfway in. You got to be all in or not in. And so, like I said, it's not going to be for everybody. A lot of folks, they just want to keep a low profile. They don't want trouble with the law, and they just want to kind of hide. But my point is that the change makers are the small percentage. If you look back at the Revolutionary War, only 3% of the Americans fought in the Revolutionary War. The other 97%, they were just scared. They didn't want to lose their life. They didn't want to lose their property. They were just going to get along, and they didn't want to rock the boat, and and they don't mind getting pushed around a little bit. Oh, so what? They're making you get a license and insurance and to register your vehicle. Okay. Well, that's how it starts. And then where are we going? What about the masking mandates that you never needed? What about the fake clot shots that you never needed, that they're poisoning people with? What about all the GMO, the chemicals in the foods, and the aerial spraying, and what about they want to do like the Chinese communists? They want to go with the digital coin where they can turn your money off if they don't like what you're saying. They want you to, the World Economic Forum. They want you to eat bugs and be happy. They don't want you to have gasoline. They want you to drive an electric vehicle so they can shut the power off on you. And so, where does it end? Where it ends is when they stick you on the boxcar and take you to the concentration camp, and after they've already taken all your weapons away. So you really have to fight the tyranny from the front side. You have to put your foot down and say, look, no more. No more. We're tired of getting pushed around. And even if that's only going to be 3 or 5% of the people, those are going to be the change makers. Those are really the patriots. Because I care about my kids and my grandchildren. I care about the future of this country. I grew up in an era where, that was very fashionable to care about our country. And now, nowadays they're not teaching that in school. They teach you to hate your country. They teach you don't know if you're a man or a woman. There's a racist behind every rock. They want to break down the family. They don't want the mother and father. They don't want the mother and father and the 2 children in a nice home. They want to break the family up. They want the mom at work. They want the kids the schools to own your kids and teach them all kinds of junk. They're trying to rip the family up. The abortion thing, killing millions of babies. This is all the work of the devil, trying to destroy the fabric of humanity, and that's the nuclear family. Anyway, thank you for stopping by, and like I said, subscribe and check out some other videos I'll be doing in the future, and you have a great day. Bye now.